could I beat the fastest lap time set at the 2026 Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka? Yes. But to do this, you're going to need a couple of things. First, head to assetocorsamods.org. Then head to the shop. Then sort by price from lowest to highest. You're going to see a bunch of mods here, but the one that we're looking for would be the Formula 1 2026 version. So the Assetto Corsa Grand Prix 2026 VF26. Then you can just add that to cart and download the mod. Of course, because this is an Assetto Corsa mod, you're also going to need Assetto Corsa, the original one, in order to use it. Okay, so I already have a setup for this track that I put together. We're going to load that real quick, and I'm going to go through each section of the setup and explain the changes and why they were made. So for the gears, this one is a fixed ratio, nothing can be changed here. For the compound, it's obviously the softest since we want to set the fastest time, but the pressures remain untouched. So these are the settings for the pressure. The fuel was 50, I reduced it to 15 to kind of reduce the weight a little bit and to make sure I don't run out while I'm doing the lap. For the electronics, I keep my MG UK at charging because I pretty much do manual deployments. So the MG UK recovery is at 100% and the engine braking is at 5, but I sometimes put it up to 7 depending on what I'm trying to do, but 5 right now is okay. For the aero, the front and left wing will pretty much remain untouched, but my rear wing was at like 21, but I put it down to 10 to increase the top speed and to also increase the level at which the back end steps out and allow easier turning into corners. For the alignment, the front tires pretty much remain untouched, both for the camber and the toe, but for the rear ones they were at 120 or 125, but I reduced them to 115. Aero sensors pretty much untouched. The dampers, I didn't touch them, but these are the settings for the dampers. The diff power, diff coast, diff preload pretty much untouched. Brake bias was at 55, so I turned it down to 54. This is because under hard braking I found that the car took too long to start to respond to turning into a corner, so there was a bit of understeer there under hard braking. So 52 seems to be the sweet spot, at least for me. The halo pretty much untouched. Heave dampers, these are the settings, but I didn't touch these. Suspensions, nothing was touched here, but these are the settings as well. And the advanced suspension, nothing was touched. Various steering assist was at 100%, but I put it down back to 0. These are pretty much the settings that I use, so enjoy the lap. So I thought I would do a little voiceover walkthrough on the thought process and the actions that I'm taking as I go through the lap. So let's start with going down the straight to the starting line. So as you can see, I've started deploying the ERS down this straight in order to gain as much speed as possible leading into the first corner. So leading into this first corner, the throttle is pretty much all the way down up until about or almost the middle of the corner is when I lift. The lifting off significantly allows the car to rotate. So you're not exactly getting oversteer that kicks the tires out and you spin out, but it unloads the differential enough that makes the car turn way easier into the corner. So this corner exit is also really important. Just as I am about to leave the corner, I manually deploy the ERS again, which allows me to accelerate quick enough that before I enter the next corner after this, I should be in 6th gear at that time. Just as I enter the corner, right, in order to really allow the car to rotate back to the right, I have to lift off, right? So as I said before, lifting off unloads the diff and makes the car way easier to turn. So I'm going to lift off and then turn, which makes it actually makes this move way easier, because before, when I was practicing, I was keeping the accelerator somewhat in the middle, and I would get a lot of understeer. So releasing the throttle at this point helps me quickly turn the car back to the right. And also, after turning the car back to the right to try and hit that apex over there, I then have to change down as I try to negotiate into the sweeping right. Yeah, it's pretty much a technique of trying to feather the throttle as much as possible. So you're trying to maintain a high speed by keeping the revs up, but you do not want to keep the revs up too much leading into the other corners, because you end up getting understeer. So it's pretty much something that you would have to develop some kind of muscle memory in order to know when to lift off and really allow the car to rotate, while at the same time not completely letting go of the throttle. I'm not sure if that makes sense. The best way to kind of visualize this would be to look at the telemetry. This one's the CMRT telemetry, the pedal telemetry. It shows you pretty much where the throttle and brake position are at any point in time. So the red line is the brakes and the green line is the accelerator. So this corner is another point in the track that I pretty much have to deploy again. So just as I'm entering this corner and I'm confident that the car is rotated enough that even if I apply the throttle here, I don't get understeer that throws me off the track, I deploy ERS again. Right, so this corner is also something that I noticed. I kind of developed some sort of muscle memory here. This lap time, by the way, is by no means optimal, like 100% optimal. I can I still think there are places in this lap that I can cut even more time, but for this corner, essentially what you want to do is you aren't even lifting. You are starting to turn the car to the right at this point, and your objective is to try and clip the edge of that apex with the right front, going as fast as possible. And with the level of downforce that this car has, that shouldn't be a problem. This is another corner that I can optimize further to lower the lap time, but I paused the video here just to let you know that this is yet another point in the track that I will be deploying ERS leading up to the slow corner right up front, like immediately after this one. So ERS just up to the edge of the corner, then I release, and then I start to recover. And because my recovery is at 100%, I should get quite a bit of battery back when I brake for that slow corner up front. So exiting this corner, as soon as my wheels are straight, I make sure to put the throttle all the way down and deploy ERS. And by now I'm just monitoring the delta to see what's up, and if I'm maintaining like a delta just above, just above the middle point, because I am trying to deploying ERS to get as fast as possible through that sweeping left. It's not as sharp, so you can pretty much go flat, but I would like to use as little as possible to then save most of the battery power for the upcoming straight, which I'm going to comment on a little later in this video. So as you noticed right there, I recovered quite a bit of battery, and this straight, this is like pretty much the final longest straight in this track, is where you are going to pretty much dump the rest of your battery up until you get to the final S's in the corner leading up to the start of the track. So this is where, if you don't have battery, you're going to lose quite a bit of time, because these cars, at least the way they are set up, even with you don't have enough battery. Essentially, it's pretty much a game of battery management, just trying to get as much speed as possible and reduce your lap time. So this straight, if you don't have battery, you will really feel it. The engine pretty much it's almost like it's half, the power is cut in half, and you just see your time creeping up. So that was the point of not using the entire battery up until these final two before the straight. So we're pretty much saving the battery for this long straight. So I pretty much dump everything in there up until we get to the very end. So in this final corner is when the recovery is part of the energy that I recovered, I'm going to try to use to keep the delta up. But you're going to notice that just before I reach the finishing line, the car is going to go into clipping mode, like the infamous clipping mode. because even in Assetto Corsa, there's a limit to how much energy you can use per lap. So you cannot use every bit of battery energy that you recover. Otherwise, this lap would be even faster. So there is kind of a limit to how much energy you can deploy. But of course, in this game, I don't think they're measuring it in energy. They might be measuring it in seconds or something. But there's still a cap to how many seconds you have of ERS in the game, so as to not make the system, like the electric hybrid system, overpowered.